Hello, everybody. So today we have a deck tech, but before we get started, I'd like to say I am rebranding from Card Quest to Vice's Paint, which is I typically go on other platforms. I just kind of felt like I should probably keep everything kind of the same. But anyway, let's get into this. Our commander is Kinnan, the Border Prodigy, right? So he's he's one green, one blue, pretty straightforward, very good commander. Cheap to get out, so whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, it produces one mana of any type that permanent produces. Right, so you're already getting double mana. If it's like a tap for one mana rock, you get the benefit out of this. And you can pay 7, which is 1 blue, 1 green, and 5. And you can look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may choose a non-human creature from among those cards, put on the battlefield, and put the rest in the boundary library in a random order. Pretty good. Pretty good. Like, it's solid commander. So, with this, we have one infinite combo I'd like to mention. Basalt Monolith. You just get infinite mana. Pretty straightforward. Not quite like. I mean, mind you, it's infinite colorless mana, so it's not like you're able to use Kinnan's ability constantly. But it's really useful. For like doing for for one, doing it a lot, but just casting a lot of crap. But let's continue. On one planeswalker, which is Ugin Spirit Dragon. You have board wipes, you have card draw. You can do 3 damage to any target. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. So with the creatures, now let me just say this: like, you don't have to do creatures like on like point every creature in this deck list. It's good. Don't get me wrong, but the, the thing is, as long as you have dorks, as long as you have big tough creatures, your deck's pretty much, I shouldn't say unstoppable, but it's a powerhouse. So let's get going with all the creatures we have. So basically, this creature, pretty strong creature, gives all your creatures trample. Pretty nice to have. Let's move on. Um, we only want this for the front side. We can flip it to the back side, but you're putting +1/+1s on target creatures. It's fine. It's good. It's pretty much just to beef up your commander, because your commander is gonna die to a bolt. Like, let's be real. Lightning bolt shock. I mean, I guess they can still destroy it, but this prevent it. The backside, if you wanted to, let me get this flipped. Oh, sorry, I'm struggling here. Based on other things, has hexproof, which is good. You just have to get it to become nighttime, which, if you want to do it, that's on you. I mean, technically, if you just do Cannon's ability, it will flip over. Yeah, as long as you keep a night bound, it's pretty nice. Okay, Beast Whisper, draw a card. Pretty straightforward. I can't really say much else. It's an elf, pretty good. Obviously able to ramp with this. It's a 1-drop. I mean, it's a good mana dork. With all the other elves, mana dork tap for each creature you control. I mean, you're gonna be getting a lot of creatures with this. Okay, so this one's very interesting. You play the top card library revealed. You may play land cards from among them on top. So the reason why you want this card in here is, instead of playing lands from your hand, you play them from the top of your library. And the reason why is, you can always discard lands, but like, when you want to use Cannon's ability, you want to make sure you just don't get those lands, because that's really gonna slow you down if one of the cards is a land. You wonder if it's something like a huge beast of a card. Critical Behemoth, pretty straightforward why you want to run it. And there's Battlefield, creatures you control gain +X this turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Pretty dang good. Darksteel, indestructible. If we you put in your graveyard from anywhere, reveal Darksteel Colossus and shuffle it into your library. You can't be milled out doing this. So that's a really good thing. The only issue is it's 11 drop for 11. It's kind of mid. It's good to keep to prevent you from being milled out. This one's pretty interesting. So wait, this is where you can kind of play a little bit of politics in the deck. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may draw a card. So you get to draw some cards. Pretty good. The only thing with this is you're just trying to get other people to attack each other. It's pretty good. That's all I have to say. Elder Growth. This one's good just because it can get you life, can get you card draw, and it can get you a 3/3 beast token. Which I mean, it can fix some solutions. It's not amazing, but it's decent for the deck. Like I said, just a dork, a 1-drop dork. I highly recommend. Now this one's actually very interesting. With Cradle of Behemoth, or the other card that gives all your creatures trample, you give all your creatures trample, plus if you have Cradle of Behemoth out or casted within aggressive Behemoth or this, it doesn't really matter. You're just giving your basically things like an overwhelming amount of damage. Another very good mana dork for 1 green. So you're gonna have a lot of creatures for this. It's not awful, I will say this. It's definitely, if you're able to cast it from your hand, you will obviously be able to eventually. Or you can cast it from Kinnan's ability. It's either or is pretty decent for this guy. Another good mana dork, definitely recommend. This one, okay, so not a lot. It also be historic, but it would be good for Kinnan and all your artifacts. Just be aware, it's you're going to be running a lot of expensive creatures, and every little helps. Jinkataxis, right? So, I mean, I really shouldn't have to say anything. This guy's just toxic, but no. At the beginning of your end step, draw 7 cards. Your opponent has a maximum mana size reduced by 7. Pretty good. Shouldn't really say basic. I will say you'll be really going through your deck. It's kind of toxic to do. Kogla, the Titanate, pretty good to keep killing your opponent's creatures. I really have. There's really no reason why you shouldn't run this, especially since you're able to pay 1 green 1 white, return to a human you control to its owner's hand, and this guy gains indestructible. If someone targets your commander, just pop it back to your hand. Pretty self-explanatory. Whenever he attacks, destroys target artifact or enchantment depending player controls. It's insane. There's no reason why not to run this. Obviously, we all knew this was coming. This beautiful, beautiful guy. So you're gonna be creating a 3/3 serpent each upkeep, and if you're playing with a group of 4, like this is intended, or you can do a 1-on-1. It doesn't really matter. It'll still be effective. Obviously, you can sacrifice another serpent. Tap target permanent. It's activated. This can't be activated, and this gains indestructible. It really doesn't matter. We're really just trying to battle a horde of creatures. Kezilek, this one's pretty decent. Just when you cast it, you can draw cards equal to 7, which is nice. But you kind of want to do it for the discard effect. Discard a card, convert a mana cost of X, counter target spell with a convert mana cost of X. Pretty good. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of expensive spells, so anything really expensive and scary you can counter. Another mana dork, pretty basic. Pretty also basic mana dork. I really recommend you have these many mana dorks. You can draw a card in this mana dork. I try to keep away from having any mana dorks that are high casting cost to prevent Just because it's not worth spending 3 mana for like a mana dork just taps for 1 green, but it lets you draw a card. That's my only exception for this guy. Okay, so this guy, it was a very interesting addition. So whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. First off, you're investigating, you're getting card draw. It's amazing. But you can sacrifice X clue tokens. Target opponent reveals the top X cards of their library. You may put a non-land permanent card with the mana value of X or less among them to the battlefield under your control. That player puts the rest on the bottom of their library in a random border. So like you're stealing cards. Well, you can draw cards. It's really nice because you're gonna be cheating creatures on the battlefield. So you're gonna be ticking that thing up constantly. So like you should be fine. You've been drawing a lot of cards. That's the only reason why this guy's on here. I mean, he's not expensive. He's pretty good. Definitely recommend. Right up there for us, right? Changeling. You may have more of the frost in the battlefield as a copy of a permanent. Or so you control, right? If you control, yep. Except it's legendary and it's a snow in addition to other types. And if a creature, hold up, I'm stuttering here. If it's a creature, it is a battlefield with 2 no counters on it, right? So I mean, anything in this deck could be good as long as it's, I think it's Behemoth. So you could technically copy Cradle Hoof if you wanted to, of course. Oh no, Bone. I really shouldn't have to say anything. Your tokens, treasure tokens would tap for double. Yeah, you're gonna get tokens. Ornithopter, colorless. First off, pretty good. Tap for 1 mana color. There's no reason why not to run it. Paldium Amir. 3-drop for 2 tap. I mean, like I said, 3 drops you really want to stay away from, but it's really good in this deck. Pretty simple. You draw a card when a creature enters the battlefield. And that includes tokens, I believe. Whenever you play a creature, never mind. My bad. Questing Beast. Listen, man, Questing Beast is just good. He can't be blocked. Why? Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you don't control can't be prevented. Whenever Questing Beast is dealt damage to target opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalkers that player controls. Getting rid of planeswalkers is pretty fire. Solomon Simulacrum, I believe that's how you say it. Man, like it's a pretty bad card. I love this is a love-hate relationship with this card. Pay for it, place a land, and when it dies, draw a card. Jump blocker, get some cards. Pretty simple. Sunglot and Waterloo. This is an expensive pick for this deck. All creatures control enforcementship, meaning other creatures that don't have enforcementship can't block creatures. Honestly, like this is a fire card. We'll get to like lowering cost of the deck at the end of the video. But let's continue. So in Monolith, you get to fight creatures you don't control whenever a creature enters the battlefield. Pretty straightforward, pretty good. Toski. Listen, man, you're gonna be doing damage, you're gonna need card draw. This is pretty much what you're gonna do. By the way, I mean, it'd be dumb not to run this. Okay, so this one's a very questionable pick, but it's a good pick. It's a very bad casting cost. But when you attack with this guy, all creatures have to block this dude, and when he dies, you draw 3 cards. So, like, for that 7 mana, for an 8/5, you're going to be drawing 3 cards, and you'll be able to get it through a whole bunch of damage. It's pretty nice. Well, boys, boy collects the Toxic Man himself. Obviously, you're going to have your opponents not be able to untap their lands. Yeah, it's pretty toxic. I really don't have to like, explain this. It's toxic. Okay, Arcade Signet, Basic Mana Rock. We already covered this. Cosmos Elixir. It's not bad for $1. You're gaining life. You're drawing cards. It's not awful. The banner. You're giving your creatures +1/+0 plus attack a mana rock. Mind Stone. Basic mana rock. Mox Amber. A little expensive. We'll recover this later. It's pretty good 0 drop for legendary. Tap a mana color of any legendary creature and planeswalkers you control. Next Lotus. Um, yeah, you gotta have a whole bunch of CMC cards. I mean devotion. Sorry, devotion to colors. It's gonna be a big tap. You get 3 wishes, get cards you need. Soul Ring, pretty simple. Great Henge, pretty good card. You draw a card, gain life, and it can get cheaper for the greatest control. And you get +1/+1 creatures. The Magic Mirror. You're not running much instants or sorceries, but you have no maximum hand size, which is the amazing part of this. But you also keep drawing more cards, which pretty decent. Commit Memory, anti-mill first off for your graveyard and library. And I mean the commit part's okay, but the memory is what you really want. You should be going through cards. Good old counter spell. For those who don't know, just counter spell. Card's temporal surrounding. You take an extra turn, pop something back to your opponent's hand. Pretty straightforward. You can only cast this if you have a legendary creature out. I forget this all the time, but something. River's Rebuke. It's a big FU to one of your opponents. It's kind of put all the cards back in their hand. That's not land. Time Warp. Take an extra turn. Ready Fire. Okay, so this one's actually very interesting. Quote a bounty. And this battlefield you become Monarch, right? At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you're the Monarch, instead you may put a creature or land card from your hand onto the battlefield, which I have gotten so much dirty stuff with. That's assuming you're able to keep Monarch, of course. Frogify, be toxic. Turn what your opponent's commanders do. Frog. Bulbous Clutches, steal one of your opponent's permanents. Pretty fire. Kinnan Transformation, pretty decent. Turn into an elk. Draw a card for 2 mana, not bad. Beer Maid, I mean honestly, for like 1 more blue mana, this is basically a copy artifact. Which I think this is very underappreciated, considering it also can do enchantments as well. Omniscience, yeah, you don't pay squat for anything. Bounty. Oh, this one's pretty good. This is also very undervalued. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 3/3 beast. Pretty simple. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put up 3 +1/+1s on target creature you control. Whenever you play a land, whenever a land enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. You got life, you're getting stuff. Land's pretty simple. You play a pathway. It will pass the Church or Library for a basic land. 17 forests. Hinterland, an island. Well, you could definitely like pimp out this whole deck, putting more lands, but this is kind of what you're gonna want. I mean, you could probably put in an Evolving Wilds, but like this is pretty much what you do on. If you wanted to put, I forget what dual land it is. You could probably add the dual land for it, but like we're staying modest here. We're not gonna spend a whole bunch of money for 1 land. So what I could recommend, first off, price wise. This deck is like $500, which is not cheap by any means. But there's a few things you can do to really make the deck less expensive. First off, in my deck, I have a revised Soul Ring. You can get a normal Soul Ring for $1. That's already knocking off the price. The Great Henge, you could cut that out of the deck. I personally like the card. But honestly, for $50, you could get rid of it and add either a big dumb creature, big thick creature, or whatever you see fit. I mean, it's good, but like, it's definitely not needed. Magic. No, let me look to see what else is expensive in here. Omniscience. I mean, you need Omniscience. technically you don't do know how much mana rocks you have, but I severely recommend it. Okay, okay, oh Gnawbone, $41. Like honestly, oh Gnawbone's an amazing card to have in the deck. So I would say against not getting rid of it, but honestly, if you want to cheap out the deck, put something else, and that's a big huge creature that'll deal a lot of damage. There's a lot of good common, uncommon, and other mythics that actually able to do a lot of damage. Um, Honestly, this is a foil version of from Ravnica. That's my choice. I believe there's cheaper copies of this. I haven't looked, but I you could get the non-foil and definitely cheaper. Um, I mean, I guess you could cheap out on Questing Beast. Questing Beast is good. You could probably get another very inexpensive land. This is always like suggestions if you want to make the deck cheaper. By the way, you don't have to take these by any means. Sunquan Lord of Will. I mean, it's a $64 card. So like honestly, if you wanted to make this cheaper, you really could. I honestly I love this card just because of the sheer gimmick of horsemanship. But honestly, I understand. It's $65. You could probably just slap in another big creature. Honestly, that's, excuse me. Like, like this card, for example. Like, look at this. This is a 15-cent card, and he does a pretty decent ability for that amount. Um, Mox Amber is another one of the cards. It's so much like ramp. I really love ramp. Definitely get put in instead like a cold steel heart. Something still taps. You could choose the color. It's not like a great mana rock, but it's $2 compared to 43. You know. Um. I mean, this also is one you could take out for anything else. Honestly, this deck is just what you should be referencing. This thing is just interchange because honestly, I think you could get this down to maybe $200. $100 is pushing it somewhere between there. You could probably get this too if you got rid of all the expensive cards. Like Jinkataxis, you could definitely get rid of. Mm, Behemoth is one I heavily suggest not getting rid of at all. It's a pretty fire card. You could. I really don't recommend it. Out of all the expensive cards I've talked about here today, this is one I'm strongest recommend do not get rid of. This is a win condition. This is a win condition you need in your decks. Anything with Grin, of course. And everything else is pretty much, I shouldn't say cheap. I guess you could get rid of the Oog and it's $20, but you know. You could put something like Oko in, which I believe is like $2. I think so. I could check, but Oko I think is cheaper than that. Let me check. I'm pretty sure. If I'm not mistaken, Oak. Can I look up cards on here? Let me actually pull up on a different screen. No, it's fine. I mean I'm not gonna quote prices due to prices changing. But Oko is a cheaper card than that. I think by like a little bit. Let me look at my phone. I should probably take this out in editing, but I'll probably forget. Let's see how much he's going for to this date. Oh, actually, he's going about the same price. Oh, $16. I'm thinking 16. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could put Oko in there. It's still toxic. At the end of the day, this is just a rough estimate. Make with this deck what you want to do with. Honestly, if you like seeing this video, please let me know. If you like name change, please let me know. With that, I thank you for watching. Please come back next video. Bye bye.